Well, welcome to the third Saturday in October podcast, your podcast for the rest of us, where tailgating is the priority, not all those stats. We just have fun and talk about our favorite teams and our favorite conference, the Southeastern Conference. This week is the 7th week of games for the Southeastern Conference. Even though we've only got 4 on the slate, it's going to be a fun-filled week of college football because now we've got all teams, it seems like, are ready to go. Pac-12 is now playing. So it may be the 7th week for us. It's Pac-12's week 1. It's the Big Ten's week 3. It's the NCAA at large week 10. So on the third Saturday in October podcast and the first Saturday in November for college football, we're ready to rock. But I am Alabama Chris coming at you alongside my buddy and co-host Tennessee Bradley. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, AC. We got a lot to cover in this episode because this week we digest some crazy things that happened last week. Can we just say Auburn and Florida? I mean, they didn't play each other, but they create a lot of headlines. Look forward to not just this week, but what could happen in the future, 5-6 years down the road. Of course, we make picks. I'm going to try to climb back into relevancy in our third Saturday in October Pick'em League. And then, of course, as always, we pregame, although we may have stumbled into the end zone there, but hey, you'll understand. So find us on social media at TSIOPod on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Find us on YouTube, and also go to thirdSaturdayinOctober.com. You can get links to all of our social media accounts, but also you can get our Tailgating 101 cheat sheet. You can sign up for our Pick'em League. Go sign up for our Pick'em League. Just prove me wrong. My gut instinct is terrible, so you're almost guaranteed to do better than me. You can also join our virtual tailgate this week, which will be kicking off just before the A&M South Carolina game. So join our virtual tailgate. Stop by for a minute. Stop by for the whole time. We're just kicking it, having a good time watching some SEC football. So let's get into this week's episode of the third Saturday in October. Well, Tennessee didn't lose the bye week, I guess. So positive news.
When you don't play, you can't lose. So that's, yeah, I like that idea. That's what I'm crossing my fingers this week, that Alabama really has a good showing, not fielding a team on their bye week.
Somebody asked Coach Pruitt, did you improve over the bye week? And he said, well, we got healthy, so that's a plus.
Yeah.
So I don't know how I feel going into the Arkansas game. Thanks for the confidence boost, Coach. But, I mean, a bunch of stuff happened. Auburn decided to dress a team this weekend. What the heck happened there?
I'm so confused with Auburn in 2020. It's like sometimes they don't show up. Sometimes the quarterback, Bo Nix, doesn't even know. It doesn't look like he's competent enough to be behind center to start for an SEC team, that storied SEC team. And again, I've said this almost every week this season and a lot last season. I love Bo Nix and his story, but it's been so confusing. But like, he's one of the players of the week over on ESPN this week. So who knows? Who knows what we're going to get from Auburn? I guess they have a bye week as well coming up this weekend. But yeah, I'm confused. It's entertaining,
it sure is.
But it's definitely confusing.
Well, I mean, if any year is going to be kind of the Auburn year, it's 2020. You never know what's going to happen next, which I hear from Auburn fans. I don't know what team we're going to see. I don't know what's going to happen on the field, but that was just nuts. Not that they ran up the score, but they kind of unintentionally ran up the score on an LSU that I don't know what direction they're going, but it's not towards the end zone. I know that.
Yeah, 48-11. That's what you would expect a nationally ranked team to do against a Vanderbilt or something like that. So to do it against the former or the reigning national champion is insane.
Yeah. I know LSU is taking their licks from losing, a college quarterback who looked like maybe one of the best I've ever seen.
Yeah.
To all sorts of weapons on offense, on defense. But still, you'd think that there'd be somebody behind them ready to step up, and apparently that's not the case down in Baton Rouge for the old Bayou Bengals. But then,
hey, I've been using our new names that we call the teams around the SEC here at the house, and it's starting to. My son's starting to use the names as well, so it's slowly catching on. It's a slow build, the grassroots movement.
We've trained ourselves and one child between the two of us to use the proper names.
Yes,
the Bayou Bengals.
Well, you've got a child that's barely speaking at all, so you have the opportunity to start them of never knowing. Yeah, there were 3 different Tigers in the SEC. Yeah.
Well, this morning he kind of he didn't crawl in the bed. He woke up earlier than we wanted, so we just threw him in the bed with us, and he's still just mumbling. But I'm pretty sure that when I sat him down next to his mom, he said, "Hello, Toots." So, getting him started off right. So
well done.
Bayou Bengals is next.
Okay. So speaking of your son and the Bayou Bengals, who's easier to understand, your son or Ed Ogeron?
My son. Because basically my son, most of the time, just or dada for everything. He will also just kind of point like this and grunt. Huh.
I do that sometimes too.
But Orgeron just kind of, baby's gonna go down here. We're gonna do that, and we're gonna go down there, and we're gonna do this, and we're gonna run that way, and we're gonna pass the ball and go Tigers. And I got no idea what he said.
No. Hey Toots, go Tigers. That's what I heard.
Yeah, Toots, go Tigers. And see, he can't even get it right because Coach, it's go Bayou Bengals.
Yeah,
and I guess that's BAYEAUX.
Yeah,
Bengals.
Go Bengals.
I don't know. I can't spell in French. But there's some other stuff that happened this last week. I'll admit, I took the weekend off. I don't think I watched any football. I think I checked some scores, but it was getting ready for Halloween and taking my son, who can't, he's not yet walking. So he's just in the stroller, but went with another family and just walked around. He dressed up in a cute little Mickey outfit. So I was football free this weekend. So Chris, what else happened?
You know what? We had some wild halftime situation down in Florida with Dan Mullen. Like right as the time is expiring, there's a late hit on the quarterback. And what you would hope would happen from your coach is the coach keeps everybody at bay, let the officials play it out kind of thing. But Dan Mullen stormed the field, yelling, screaming, his team in tow. And then a big fight broke out. And so there are a lot of people that are saying that if it wasn't for Coach Mullen doing what he did, that there probably wouldn't have been the scuffle that there was. And so he's kind of looked at as inciting the entire incident. And then everybody starts to go off to halftime. He comes back out onto the field, hyping up the crowd, trying to get them going. And then in the post-game presser, dresses up like Darth Vader and comes out lightsaber and all. So very strange Halloween day of football over in Gainesville with the coach. What are your thoughts on Dan Mullen hyping up the crowd and inciting a fight with his team?
Well, I'll be transparent here. I heard about this. I actually have not. I've seen the hit. I think I've seen pictures of Mullen being held back, of Mullen pumping up the crowd as he goes into the tunnel. But that's it. I haven't watched video of what happened right after the hit, how it all transpired or anything like that. But I remember when Tennessee had fired Butch Jones. They're looking for a new coach. And there were several names that came up, like Mike Leach and Dan Mullen. And when I heard Dan Mullen's name, I was not excited about that. I mean, part of it is he always has this look on the sideline like he doesn't know what's going on.
Right.
And that's not very it doesn't breed confidence in my head coach when he looks confused. But also he just, to me, it felt too much like Butch Jones in that he just kind of says some ridiculous things, does some ridiculous things. Running off the field, going into halftime. Don't worry about the crowd. Worry about getting your players under control and your mission on the field. I gravitate towards coaches like Jeremy Pruitt, Kirby Smart, Nick Saban, who are no nonsense kind of football coaches, and not towards coaches like Dan Mullen, who I don't know if it's just going more off emotion, but I don't know. He doesn't give me confidence as a head coach.
You know who he kind of reminds me of is like 5 years ago, Lane Kiffin.
Yeah.
It's like, I think Dan Mullen's got to have Kiffin in the age department, but they're kind of going like this as far as their reputation and their the way that they play things out. And I don't know if that's the Florida Gators in Dan Mullen, because I don't necessarily remember these kinds of outbursts or things going on when he was over in Mississippi. But very interesting kind of crossing of paths for those two coaches.
Yeah. When Mullen was at Mississippi State, he had some pretty good seasons, but it all revolved around Dak Prescott. That was another thing. It's like, you know what? Yeah, he's in the West, but he can't keep up with Alabama and Auburn. And if he went to Tennessee, he'd still have to keep up with Alabama. Which I'll admit Pruitt hasn't done yet. But I agree. It does seem reminiscent of kind of a Tennessee era Lane Kiffin. And I agree. Lane Kiffin seems to have matured a little bit. I mean, he's still funny. He still tweets out some ridiculous stuff. He got fined for calling out the referees, but I think it was appropriate that he called them out. How he called them out, I don't know. I thought it was fine. I didn't have a big problem with it, but
speaking of fine, both of them fined $25,000 a piece for their outbursts. And again, Kiffin's seemed a bit more. I think that all he necessarily really did was he retweeted somebody that said that the officiating had been atrocious. I think that's what caused his. But Dan Mullen actually running out onto the field yelling at the referees in the middle of the game. So his seems quite a bit more egregious.
The opposite of sportsmanlike conduct. And not modeling sportsmanship. I don't know. I'm glad Mullen's at Florida. It seems like a good fit. Just from, I don't know, ever since Spurrier was at Florida, they just had this attitude. I guess people would now call it swagger. That's, I mean, I guess it's good, but I think it has to be held in check. Because I think that Alabama players have swagger, but it's a different, it seems like a more mature swagger, not like Florida's swagger feels a little bit like little brother. I've got something to prove. Alabama's comes across as big brother. I'm just going to do what I want to do.
Right. Yeah.
And Alabama just forces their will on every team they play.
Yeah. The attitude that Kiffin is still in the back of my head. Like, things are slowly changing my thought of Kiffin and reputation of how I think of him in my head. But it feels like it is slowly moving away from what he's kind of been known for, is this use social media and use the media to kind of put himself out there as this kind of former NFL coach, former USC coach, cocky thing. That, if the time frame had lined up a little bit more, you think about Spurrier at Florida, then you think about Urban Meyer at Florida, and then Muschamp seemed to be much more outgoing at Florida than he does now at South Carolina. And so that kind of mold, it seemed like, if you would have said, who you think should be the coach at Florida, Lane Kiffin or Dan Mullen, to me, in my mind, I would have thought, that Lane Kiffin seems like he fits that mold more for a Florida coach versus Dan Mullen now. But Mullen is falling into it too. So maybe it's something in the water down there that once you get there in Gainesville, you're kind of expected to be a bit more vocal about those types of things, or a bit more cocky. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, I think that, I've talked about this before. I like Kiffin as a coach. I think that he matured, especially under Saban. Just seeing how Saban ran his programs, and then his name came up, at least with a small group of fans, when Tennessee was looking to replace Butch Jones, and I didn't hate that idea because I'd seen the difference in Kiffin after studying under Nick Saban. So I was like, okay, I can get behind that. It's, in some ways, Jeremy Pruitt was hired because he was the opposite of Butch Jones. He was a no nonsense coach. He had no head coaching experience, but who else had no head coaching experience when they were hired as head coach at Tennessee? Phil Fulmer. And he did all right for, 20 years, almost. So I had no problem with that, but I started thinking this week, Nick Saban, I don't know how much longer he's going to coach, 5-6 years. He may coach for another 30 years. He's probably done some deal with the devil. But when he
you did tell him Satan last week.
The Freudian slip, calling him Satan last week. When he retires, if Jeremy Pruitt has proven himself as a really great head coach, which I think he's going that direction, even though a lot of fans don't think he's a great coach, I still think he's there. If Alabama hires Pruitt to replace Saban, would Tennessee hire Lane Kiffin to replace Pruitt? I'd be all for it. I think Kiffin's already proven that he can take players and adapt an offense to them, because Ole Miss is making some noise on the scoreboard this year. I know that they've had a game or two where not quite as up to snuff, but they were giving Alabama all they could handle. So I'd love to see Kiffin even just as a coordinator, an offensive coordinator at Tennessee right now. Because I don't know what's happening in Knoxville offensively, but it's not good. But I started thinking, okay, if Pruitt goes to Alabama in a few years, would Kiffin come to Tennessee?
Interesting.
It's the season of voting. I'd vote yes for that.
It's so funny that you say that, because knowing how diehard of a Tennessee fan you are, and Lane Kiffin's escape in the night several years ago from being the head coach there, it's a wild turn of events.
And even then, looking back, looking how he left, he did not leave the way he wanted to, because he wanted to address the board, the regents. I don't know who it was that he called a meeting with. somebody in that group called in the media, and he's a little bit deer in headlights because now it's more of a prepared speech that he's supposed to give.
Wow. He
wasn't ready for that. So I don't put all the blame on how that transpired on him. He didn't do, I mean, he had some NCAA violations while he was at Tennessee, but he seems to have cleaned up his act from that standpoint. So I was probably more mad about that, just kind of leaving Tennessee in a bad place because of illegal stuff he did rather than how he left. But yeah, it would be interesting to see what the Tennessee fan base thinks a decade later.
Wow. So cool to hear you say that. Well, you said this is a season of voting. Just a shout out to Tommy Tuberville, former Auburn head coach, is now a senator for Alabama. So he, you hear those things of like, it's the most popular person in the state, even, somebody like a Nick Saban or a head coach for these major football teams, especially in the South, that they're more popular even than the governor. And so somebody that, is a former head coach is now a senator for Alabama. So that's an interesting swing of events for him down there. So maybe in the future, if this is voting season, maybe you can get your wish and have Lane Kiffin come back to the balls.
Yeah, and then he'll be Tennessee senator. Come on, let's go. Not quite sure that I'd vote for him for senator, but he's not quite the lovable character that Tommy Tuberville is.
Sure.
Hey guys, we'll get back to the podcast in just a second. I wanted to invite you to our virtual tailgate that happens every Saturday night. Just go to thirdsaturdayiNoctober.com to sign up, and we'll email you the link to the virtual tailgate every week. You can stop by for a few minutes or hang out for a while. It doesn't matter, just come hang out with a bunch of other people who love college football. See you there.
Well, any other thoughts for last week? Coming up, we had Texas A&M take down Arkansas in a pretty high-scoring game, 42-31.
That does not bode well for Tennessee this weekend, I'll say that. Having to score points is not Tennessee's strong point.
Yeah. Well, maybe this is one of those situations where coming off a bye week, get some rest that Arkansas didn't get and can use that to their advantage.
Yeah. A couple years ago, coming off a bye week, Tennessee went to Jordan Hare, upset number 21 Auburn. So who knows? It could – stranger things have happened. But yeah, A&M looking like they've got it together offensively.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to watch the second half of the season now that teams have kind of found themselves, because they couldn't in fall camp. There was hardly a fall camp to find yourself. But I can't wait to see how things really shake out, because other than Alabama, nobody's unbeaten.
Yeah. And quite the game coming up. I know we'll talk about this a bit later, but Georgia and Florida playing. It feels like to me at this point in the season, that's going to determine who's going to the SEC championship for the East.
Yeah, agreed. So let's move on to this week, unless you've got some final thoughts on this last week.
Just looking over the scores, Auburn, again, like you said earlier, woke up. It looks like that Georgia went to bed. I don't know what happened to them. That 14-3 beating of Kentucky, it reminded me of one of those more old school SEC scores, a 14-3 ending when you get the defenses that are doing everything.
Georgia is Tennessee, but with a great defense. They've got issues at quarterback, and they've had injuries. They've had guys opt out. I don't know. I might say that Tennessee's receiving core is better than Georgia's. Although Pickens, I think, is a better receiver than anybody Tennessee has. I think as a group, Tennessee's receivers are better than Georgia's, but Georgia's offensive line seems to be holding it together better than Tennessee's. Even though Tennessee's was supposed to be just stout, I'm not seeing it. But Georgia's defense is incredible. And their defense is causing them to win games or prevent them from losing games. But I see Tennessee and Georgia much in kind of the same light, which is interesting. That's how Saban used to run things. Just, give me a great defense and a game manager at quarterback and we'll be all right. And ever since Kiffin was in Tuscaloosa, the offense has fared better than the defense, really. I know Saban doesn't like it, but he's adapted, and I think that's why he keeps winning.
Yeah, you look at the former and then current offensive coordinators, both being former head coaches at USC, coming and bringing a bit of that West Coast style of play to Alabama's offense and putting it in the air more. Right now, we were talking a bit before we went live that Mac Jones is currently the highest graded, I don't know about rated, but highest graded quarterback in the country. And it primarily is because of him putting those balls in the air and letting those talented receivers find the ball and score. Again, 41-0 over Mississippi State this week. That's not nothing. Again, with Mike Leach and his continued issues at Mississippi State and that air raid offense, it's pretty wild that they have gone so long without scoring an offensive touchdown.
Well, like you said, Mac Jones putting balls in the air. Only good things can happen when you put your balls in the air. And I remember Alabama fans saying, I don't want Mac Jones as my quarterback. Okay, let's let him play the first 3 games while we get our young guys broken in.
Yeah, Bryce Young, the quarterback who everybody expected to kind of come in and conquer and start. Yeah.
But it's like, hey, Mac Jones, why don't you stick around for a while? This year doesn't count. Right. So let's, we'll get Waddle back next year. We'll try to convince him to come back, and we'll do the same thing all over again. But I don't know. Good for Mac Jones with all the naysayers, because there are a bunch of them.
Especially under that pressure cooker of the SEC and the pressure cooker of Alabama.
Yeah, he's
in a double pressure cooker situation.
Yeah, he's a cool cucumber over there with his balls in the air. So,
well, that's how you remain cool.
Exactly. But so good for him on that stat. Even though we talked about the stat, we didn't actually mention the stat itself. So I think we're okay.
That's how we get around a stat-free environment. Is you can talk about it, just don't say it exactly.
Yeah. Don't use numbers. Just use letters.
Well, you were saying a second ago, moving on to this week, we've only got 4 games on the slate, and it's interesting to see what Tennessee looks like against Arkansas. It's interesting to see if Mike Leach can score a touchdown against Vandy. So, and then we've got the world's largest cocktail party. Is that how you say it? The world's largest outdoor cocktail party.
Yeah. Which it better be outdoors, and it socially better be the largest, because everybody better be 6 feet apart.
True.
But man, one of these days we're going to get down there, because I've just got to see this spectacle in person. Yeah. I mean, you see it on TV every year, but I need to experience this in person. But I think this is a good matchup. One of the SE East's best offense versus one of the best defenses in the country.
Yeah.
Strength on strength here. It's going to be an interesting matchup. I mean, I'd be worried if I was in either fan base, but I'm not.
I would too.
So I'm not worried. But we'll see.
Yeah, I agree with you, especially on the tailgating portion of it. I know that this year what we were wanting to do in year 2 of the third Saturday in October show is to really get out there and experience some of these tailgates and these stadiums. We talked about going to Baton Rouge for a game, talked about going and seeing the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, talked about maybe going to an Ole Miss game and experiencing that. And so now with, being in a global pandemic, all of those plans have to be pushed on pause for a year or so. But yeah, I think but the game itself, I think it seems like it's going to be pretty spectacular as far as like this classic SEC East head to head, go at it and earn it kind of game. So it's going to be fun.
Well, I'm excited to watch the games this week. And, since we're talking about world's largest outdoor cocktail party and tailgating, we kind of forgot about it last week. Now, I had candy on the brain. I was thinking, okay, I'm taking a week off from watching college football, but our quintuple T, baby, poll is coming back this week on Twitter. So, Chris, what are our top of the tailgate tournament of treats from which to choose this week?
This week, we are going with the third Saturday in October, top of the tailgate tournament of treats. We have not balls in the air, but meat of choice.
Yeah. There's a theme to this week. It's all about the meatballs.
Last week or 2 weeks ago, we had pies, and pecan pie was our overwhelming winner at the poll that you could go and vote to on Twitter. So please follow us on Twitter. Go check out the poll for this week, because the meats of choice are 1, burgers, 2, hot dogs, 3, wangs, and 4, ribs. So again, meat of choice. So this doesn't necessarily mean it's just by itself. You slather wings and ribs in some sort of sauce. You put hot dogs and burgers between buns, and you have sides and everything. But classic entrees made of meat is this week's third Saturday in October, top of the tailgate tournament of treats. So go vote on Twitter now.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing. I'm no vegetarian because all those make me drool. So yeah. I don't know if I can nail it down to just one, but find that on Twitter. And go vote. So, Chris, it's time to make some picks. And
yes, sir.
My strategy last week, I don't think worked. I think I still came in last.
Okay.
But we did have a shakeup towards the top, didn't we? In our standings?
Yes, we did. It looks like that Rusty M has taken over the leaderboard and is now in first place with a really good showing for the past several weeks. I think that he was first place this last week. The week before, he tied first place with Josh B. But he's now the new number 1 in the clubhouse and on the leaderboard. So we got to take down Rusty M.
Yeah,
that's all I know.
Yep, we're the ones who have to shake off the rust and beat Rusty. So first up, because we only have 4 games, there is no early game.
This is bizarre. I wonder when the last time an SEC scheduled event didn't have like a Saturday college football didn't have some at least one 11 a.m. kickoff Central Time.
Right. I could have used this 2 years ago because I could sleep in, but not no mo with a son who has no concept of daylight savings ending. So he's just up an hour earlier. But first is our CBS game of the week, kicking off at 2:30. It is the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, Florida taking on Georgia. Georgia, a 4.5-point favorite. Chris, give me your pick.
You know what? You're right. This is going to be a meet on the field, knockdown, drag out kind of affair. And the Florida offense firing all cylinders, the Georgia defense firing on all cylinders. But I'm kind of just going with my thought that Georgia seems like if they're the number 4 or 5 team in the country, there are still some questions with Florida. that I have. So I think that Georgia ekes this out. So I'm choosing Georgia as well as the line at a negative 4.5. So I'm gonna go with the line and say that Georgia takes this one down. What about you?
I think Florida wins outright. I don't know. It just as sluggish. And again, I didn't watch it, but Georgia only scoring 14 points. In today's college football, that's sluggish. So I'm going with offense on this one, though I hear that defense wins championships.
Well, I will say this too, specifically with offense. It was difficult for me to make this choice because there's been a lot of flack on Kirby Smart for not making a move or making a change at the QB1 position. So this may be if Florida somehow comes back and pulls this one out. We've got a QB on the hot seat already just because of his inability to be consistent. So I wonder what the storyline would be if Florida wins this one outright about what Kirby Smart is doing or not doing as a coach with the quarterback there.
Well, I think both Kirby Smart and Jeremy Pruitt need little bracelets that say WWSD. And I'm not talking about Satan, but what would Saban do? What would Saban do with his quarterback? I mean, he's been known to pull Heisman candidate quarterbacks, put in a replacement who then just tear it up. So
true.
We'll see. Kicking off just 30 minutes later at 3:00 Central on the SEC Network, we've got Vanderbilt traveling to Mississippi State. State a 19.5-point favorite. Pick it, Chris.
I mean, I don't know what to do with this game. This is one of those confusing ones. I always have a handful of these throughout the year with Mississippi State has yet to score a point in what, 2 games now? And then the 2 weeks before that, it was maybe a rushing touchdown here or there. So the fact that they are expected to win this by 19.5 for me says less about Mississippi State's ability to play and more about Vandy's inability to play. So I'm picking Mississippi State, but it's one of those emoji shrugs the whole time. Yeah,
it's a hard one to pick. Well, I mean the air raid Pirates have had the air raided out of their offense. I'm picking Vandy.
Good. Yes. Okay.
Only not because I believe in Vandy, but I don't believe in Mississippi State right now. This is an air sea battle this weekend between the Commodores and the air raid Pirates.
Well said. I like that.
So we'll see who wins that one. Then we've got our primetime games. So kicking off at 6:00 Central on ESPN, Texas A&M going to South Carolina, a little East-West action here as well. I guess 3 out of our 4 games are East versus West.
Yeah.
Texas A&M favored by a touchdown and a half, 7.5 points.
Yeah.
How you feeling about the Aggies against the Gamecocks?
I say the SEC West takes this one. I think that, things are slowly, at least for what we have right now. I know that the Pac-12 are coming in and starting this week, but it seems like if you've got a 7th ranked ranking in the polls, that you're there for a reason. I feel like the offense has found their footing. I still have some question marks about South Carolina, but that may be because I just haven't seen them as much this year as I have watched other teams. So I'm taking Texas A&M to win this one. What about you?
Well, I think the Collie Dogs are able to round up the fighting chickens. And I'm going with A&M to cover here as well.
Cool.
So I agree with you. I think the West takes this one.
Good. Okay. Yeah. I like, though, that we've got a little bit of a difference there with the Vandy Mississippi State game. I don't know that we're going to have much of a difference here in this last game, but we've got your Tennessee Vols taking on the Arkansas Razorbacks on the SEC Network at 6:30 on Saturday night. Looks like that Tennessee, even though they're playing in Fayetteville, Arkansas, that Tennessee is favored by 1.5 points. How how you think your Vols are going to do?
I'm picking Arkansas. I'm just
Go.
not. Yeah. I'm not feeling good. But I hope I'm wrong. We talked about this before we got started. What should be done at the quarterback position? I don't know. And I'm glad I'm not a head coach, because I do think that Garantano gives you the best opportunity to win. I think Harrison Bailey, our true freshman stud, he just needs more time in the weight room because he's going to get hit some. And true freshman quarterbacks getting hit like that, what's his name? Trevor Lawrence, I think stayed pretty clean his freshman year. Good offensive line. If you can't stay clean, you're going to get hurt. We saw it with Maurer last year at Tennessee, getting concussions right and left because he still couldn't stay clean. And if you look at Garantano's stats, they look pretty good. On Twitter, I see top SEC quarterbacks week in, week out, and he's in the top half most weeks. But I think from a game manager standpoint, he's not quite up to snuff, and maybe that's where he's lacking, whether it's checking down when he shouldn't or not checking down when he should. I don't know if it's just reading defenses, but his throws aren't always accurate. And I said this early in the season, his receivers are making these crazy athletic catches to get him completions when really they shouldn't be completions because they're thrown to the wrong spot. But I'm going with Arkansas. They've shown a lot of fight this year, and even though Tennessee in the game against Alabama did show fight, they didn't against Kentucky. I think they have a good shot of regressing back to that point. So I'm going with the Hogs.
Wow. Okay. I'm going Tennessee. And maybe you've got to, several of the things you said were good points, but maybe it's the historical bias that I have of thinking about the Tennessee Volunteers against the Arkansas Razorbacks.
Yeah.
My mind just initially goes to of course, Tennessee. But you're right. Arkansas has shown a lot of fight. They have shown a lot of oomph. And even though both teams have the same record right now at 2-3, I don't know. I'm just feeling the Vols this week. So I'm taking the Vols. So it looks like that you and I, the 4 games this week on the slate, that we are going 2 for 4 as far as our agreement versus disagreement.
Well, who are you? You were going with Georgia, weren't you, in the first game?
Oh, did you say Florida for that one?
I'm going Florida, Vandy, A&M, and Arkansas.
Okay, so we are only choosing A&M together. And everybody else. Ooh, this is going to be a fun shakeup.
It is going to be a fun shakeup. Again, and this wasn't intentionally trying to just gain ground. It's just going off gut feeling, which I guess I've got poor gut health because I'm hanging out at the bottom. I'm down there with Vandy. If the TSIO
you need some probiotics, would that help?
Say again.
You need some more probiotics. Would that help?
Yeah, I need something. But yeah, I'm hanging out with the Vandies of the TSIO Pick'em League. But hey, you can come in and you can obviously see how easy it is to get towards the top of our Pick'em League. Just pick against my ridiculousness. Go to thirdsaturdayiNoctober.com to sign up for the Pick'em League there. Chris, we've processed last week. We've talked about this coming weekend. We've hit the headlines. You know what it's time for.
It's time to tailgate, baby.
Or it's time to pregame.
Pregame. We're going to tailgate at pregame.
Hey, we'll do that. But it's time to pregame. Let's just roll that. Let's roll that beautiful bean footage, and let's roll that beautiful bumper music.
Tailgate, man cave, living room, pregame, burgers, ribs, chicken, chipping dip. Pregame, scotch and a lot of IPA. Coca-Cola, pregame, slaying dogs, EA, cornhole, pregame. How you gonna watch?
So, Chris, Alabama's not playing.
Yeah, apparently I'm not showing up either because I've forgotten the name of our pregame segment.
You've checked out for the weekend. Are you I took a weekend off last weekend for Halloween. Yeah. Are you taking a weekend off this weekend?
I am. I actually am. My wife is going to be. Yeah, she's going to be out of town and doing. She's got something going on, so I'm going to hunker down with the kids and hang out. Maybe do something on a Saturday night other than sitting my butt on a couch and watching football. We're going to do some hanging out away from the house this week, so it's going to be nice to hang out with the kids and enjoy that. But yeah, I'm going to take a little breather. I'm going to be like the rest of the teams in the SEC that are taking the week off. I'm going to take this week to just rest, get healthy, so then I'm really back into it next week for what will be from here next week on out. All 14 teams are playing from there on out, barring any COVID issues. But yeah, so this is the last of our 3-week span where we have our bye weeks happening. So it's going to be a good week to rest up. So I'm going to do that. What about you? How are you spending the week?
Well, I think we may be having a Friendsgiving lunch on Saturday.
Oh, cool.
So I'll do that. And then I'll have my butt back on the couch in time for a 5:30 Central kickoff for our virtual tailgate this week, where we will watch, of course, the Tennessee game against Arkansas, but also that Texas A&M South Carolina game that kicks off just 30 minutes after our virtual tailgate. So we got our virtual tailgate at 5:30, Texas A&M South Carolina at 6, Tennessee Arkansas at 6:30. So Chris, just drop in, say hi, let us know what you're doing.
But I'll drop in and wave at everybody.
Yeah, we hope to see you at the virtual tailgate. You can sign up for that, get the link to the Zoom hangout, Zoom meeting over at thirdsaturday.inoctober.com. It's always a grand old time.
Absolutely fun.
We'll process the early games, the early afternoon games. We'll get ready for these last couple games and just have a big time. So we'll see what the second half of the season has in store. Hopefully for Tennessee, it's good things. Obviously, I was wrong on my 8-2 prediction. Even if we went out 7-3, but winning out looks a lot more difficult than it did earlier in the season. So
yeah,
we'll see. Got to break a 3-game losing streak first. I don't know, but Alabama gets the week off. It's a good week to have a week off as the second half of the season looms in front of us. So, Chris, roll balls.
Roll balls, baby.